Shabbat Shalom from Temple Concord. I'm sitting in my office today, and you look around, you'll see lots of books. In a sense, books are the tools of the trade for a rabbi. But if you look closely on my shelf, you'll see some books that don't quite fit in, that seem a little strange to see in a rabbi's office. A couple of them are right here on this shelf. There are three books that are about Native American stories and Native American origin stories. The reason they're in here is because in college I took a class on Native American literature. And in many ways, I learned more about myself as a Jew in that class than in any other class, even in the classes in the seminary. The reason is that in those books and in that class, I learned that Native American origin myths are very similar to our own. Native Americans have many of the same stories, the flood story and so on. And one of the stories that Native Americans hold dear and hold as sacred is the story in this week's Torah portion of two twins who fight in the womb. Now, we know the story as the story of Jacob and Esau fighting in the womb, and the younger comes out holding the heel of the older, but the younger ultimately wins the birthright over the older and tricks the father, and on we go with our story. The Native American story talks about twins who fight in the womb and how both of them go on to be the fathers of great nations. It's a fascinating thing, and for me, it was such an enlightening moment as a student because I realized that while Judaism was central to me, and while it made sense and gave me truth, I couldn't claim a corner on truth. I realized that Judaism was a truth for me, but there are other truths out there. And so much of what I do as a rabbi is a recognition of the fact that I don't have a corner on truth, and nor does anyone else. Which is why I work together with people of lots of different faiths, because together we share a truth that our world can be made better, but that there are lots of routes to get to that point. And so when I read the Torah portion this Shabbat and read about the twins, I'm reminded not just of our own origin story, but of the origin stories of the Native Americans and of so many others who recognize that ours is a tradition, and each of their traditions is a tradition that starts with myth, but leads us to a point of making the world better. That the myth isn't an end itself, the myth rather is a fuel to push us to pursue the highest we can, to be God's partner, to continue in the creation of the world and the perfection of our world. So I hope you'll come to Shabbat services this week and learn about the twins fighting in the womb and wrestle as they did and as we have for centuries with what it means to be a Jew and how we pursue truth and how we recognize the truth in others. Services Friday evening will be at 7:30. It's a late service. Saturday morning we'll celebrate the bat mitzvah of Evelyn Fay. It promises to be a wonderful morning. We have text study at 9, Torah study at 10, and then the bat mitzvah at 11. On Monday evening we have our Goldenberg series, a wonderful trio who will be performing Monday evening at 7. On Sunday morning a full complement of classes, and throughout the week all sorts of classes as well. But for now, I hope you'll take time to recognize how important our own stories are. How important our stories are in creating our sense of who we are as a people, but recognizing that other people have their stories that are equally important. And when we can see the holiness in our stories and in the other stories, then we reach something greater. We reach a shared understanding that we are all equal, that we are all created by the same God, that we all deserve the same rights and responsibilities, that we all deserve the same kind of equal treatment. One last note. In these weeks where there are protests going on in North Dakota, where there are people whose sacred grounds are being trampled for the Almighty Pipeline and dollar, it's good for us to recognize the importance of these sacred stories. Their land is sacred, and if we had a pipeline that was going through our sacred land, whether it was the synagogue or a cemetery or any place else, we would be going nuts. And we have to recognize that what they're doing is standing up for their beliefs, and we have a responsibility to stand with them. So I hope you'll participate in those protests and be a part of them, because what they're doing is what we do. And their holy stories are our holy stories, and who they are is who we are. Shabbat Shalom for now. Look forward to seeing you at the temple.